Hey, what's happening, guys? Brand new episode of Let There Be Talk. November 11th, it's a Monday. Welcome. Thanks for tuning in. I'm out here in Las Vegas. Just got here. I'm going to be here from today, the 11th, all the way to November 17th. So if you're in Vegas at any time during that period, come see me live at the Laugh Factory at the Tropicana. Hit me up, email me, deandelray@yahoo.com. I'll throw you on the guest list. Come by, see me, say hi. I want to meet some Delraysers in Vegas. Vegas! I got some shit plotted out while I'm here. I'm going to go to the Kiss Miniature Golf. I'm going to give more fucking money to Gene Simmons. I mean, I think if I added it up since I was like 9, the money I gave to Kiss or Gene Simmons probably personally would probably be about maybe close to $1 million. Fucking those guys got my money. They got my money. So yeah, I'm going to go check out the Kiss Miniature Golf. What else am I going to do? I'm doing shows, of course. I'm going to my favorite spot, the Pinball Hall of Fame. That's always cool. They have fucking pinball machines from the 60s all the way to now. I'll play my favorite one, the Metallica one. That's going to be great. So I'll be out here in Vegas. Come see me. And then also, don't forget, next week, the 20th, I'm going to be at the Punchline headlining. It's going to be me, Brian Redband, and Christian Spicer. Please get your tickets. They're going pretty fast. I want to see you guys all at San Francisco on November 20th. Punchline. All right. I hope everybody liked that bonus episode I dropped for you with Shaylin, my dentist. That was pretty funny, right? Some dental talk. The legend of shit tooth. And also, a lot of you guys really liked that Steve Renazizi, Steve Simone episode. That was great. You guys did the Fantasy Rock League. Still talking about that because I've been getting tweets nonstop. And this is the first episode where I asked my guest today who his Fantasy Rock band would be. Who is my guest? It's none other than Harper Simon. You wonder who Harper Simon is? He's a singer-songwriter. In 2009, he put out a record. It was a title track, Harper Simon. It's incredible. If you're into singer-songwriters, this guy's great. If you didn't know that about me, of course, if you're just tuning in, I worship singer-songwriters going all the way back to my early Carole King days. Tapestry, one of my favorite records, of course. Harper also has a new record out, Division Street. We talk about these records. We talk about his dad. You'll find out who that is, of course. He didn't like that. But we ended up kissing and making up at the end. I loved him. Great. This is a great episode, man. I really liked this episode. We covered a lot of stuff, and I just listened to it again, and I think it's cool. I like it. I hope you do. Get his records, man. On iTunes, you can get one of them for $8, and the other one's like $10. They're worth both having. If you're into stuff like Elliott Smith or, say, Jacob Dylan or Wilco and that kind of stuff, you're going to like this. You're going to like it a lot. Also, as he was leaving the house, I came up with an idea called Bad Music Tax, and I think it would work. Bad music tax, meaning anybody that plays bad music, let's say right now, like Miley Cyrus or Justin Bieber, Selena Gomez, the Black Eyed Peas, anyone that plays terrible bad music, we tax them like $2 a record. The worse your music, the more we tax you. Like Miley, she gets taxed $3. And that money that we tax them goes towards people that never make money in the music biz, but do incredible records. They do it for art. They do it for the love of music. They don't do it to get famous. They do it because they love rock and roll. So we get all this money from this shitty music, and we spill it into guys so they can keep doing it and, feed their families and keep making music. Some of the money would go to like Rival Sons, my favorite bands like Sheepdogs. Tom Waits, keep giving him money. That fucker's the god. He should have all the money in the world. New band that I got turned on to, Fuzz from San Francisco. Give them some money. Sunvolt, fuck yeah. Money for them. Ron Sexsmith, Give him money. Bad music tax, man. I think this is a great idea. I know I went and saw Rollins speak, and I've talked about it before on the podcast, and he opened my eyes to we need bad music because that bad music makes enough money to trickle down to let a Wilco make a record or a Rival Sons or a Sheepdogs. I understand that, but this would be even better. It's kind of the Delray care. Delray care for the good art. Bad music tax. Just an idea. Anyway, enjoy this episode. Harper was great. Thanks for all your emails, guys. DeanDelray@yahoo.com. Don't forget, subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and write some reviews. And all you Delraisers rule out there. Sit back, enjoy it. If you hear the music on this, that's Harper's music. So get a little listen to that. Thank you, guys. I'll see you soon. All right, here we are, another episode of Let There Be Talk. Thanks for tuning in. I've got a great guest today. I don't really even know you. I just met you a couple days ago. Harper Simon, how are you, buddy?
Hi, Dean. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
I'm glad you're on. We met in last Thursday at a dinner. I was out with Jacob, and he says a friend's joining us. And I have no idea who you are, but I asked you to be on because I was like, oh, well, this guy likes good music and shit. Which is, when you meet somebody that's into good music, I think you lock on to them, right?
Yeah, I suppose so. I don't remember even talking about music with you.
We were talking about producers.
Oh, right.
And stuff, Rick Rubin and stuff. And I didn't know who you were, so I asked you to be on. And then I Googled you, and you're Paul Simon's son, which is hilarious to me. Because if anybody knows me, I'm either heavily into rock or singer-songwriters. It's those two things for me. And I grew up on Paul Simon, big time, Carole King, Tapestry record, Neil Young, Dylan, all those, But Paul Simon was, I remember a key day, I called in sick to school. I faked it. I told my mom I was sick, and I wasn't. I just didn't feel like going. And as I stayed home, watched TV, I saw this movie, One Trick Pony, and I was like, "Wow, this is a great film." It was probably like the first music movie I'd saw. Like I was like in 9th grade or something. But it's so iconic to me. It stuck with me forever. That film. Which is funny, and then here I am, here you are. And now you're a musician. I hear your records. I listened to them yesterday, the first one, and then what's the one, Division Street? Fucking great. I was pretty blown away. You know what I mean? Because with like celebrity, big star sons, you either get really bad or really good. Like Jacob's really good, right? But your records are amazing.
Thank you, Dean.
Now,
thanks.
What are you?
Glad you liked it.
Are you 40?
Yeah.
And you just started putting records out of like that came out in 2010.
Yeah, that one came out when I was 36, and those are my. I didn't sort of get to like having a solo career where I'd put records out under my name. Sort of, I didn't really start to think to do it till I was in my early 30s, and then things take a while to get made and come out, and you know how it is.
Yeah. I think the reason I totally missed you, because I know I listen to fucking every singer-songwriter. I get into it, in the last, 15 years, you got Tweety, Ron Sexsmith, Beck, Elliott Smith, all that stuff. I love it all. But I think the reason I missed you was it was right when I started doing stand-up comedy. And at that point, I had really made a conscious decision of like, I don't want to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You know what I mean? I was a musician for 25 years, and I was like, I'm going into this full blown, and immersed myself into that world. So that's how I missed you, you know?
I can
And
understand that.
Yeah, and I mean, I really see why I did, because I wasn't listening to, I wasn't going out I wasn't at Amoeba every Tuesday going, what's out right now. I wasn't listening to KCRW. I was listening to podcasts, and I was watching comedy, and I was out every night, you know? But your first record is like critically acclaimed. I'm reading all this great shit. People love it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I got some good press, I guess. I don't know what it means, but I got some good reviews.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. Critically acclaimed. I don't know what that.
It was. I mean, that's.
No. I guess you would say so. You could probably make a case and say it was, but it's funny because critically acclaimed doesn't actually mean anything.
Well,
anymore.
It doesn't sell records. It doesn't.
Or I don't know. Maybe it means something. I don't know. Do you think it means something?
I'd rather be critically acclaimed, than famous. You know what I mean? I mean, to me, not critically. I don't care what the critics think, but I like the peers to be into it. You know what I mean? Like if you're say you're a comic or a musician, and other guys you look up to are going, that's a great record, then it feels good.
I agree. It feels good to get that validation from your community, I suppose.
It does. Now, let me ask you a question. I
think I was given, begrudging respect. I have a lot of people that probably did not want to like me, but
it seems like you didn't get, I was reading up on your stuff, it seems like you didn't get any of that, Paul Simon's son's going to try to play music.
I did. I'm sure I did a much more in a passive-aggressive kinds of ways.
I got you. Yeah, like you grew up in New York?
I mean, there are some people that will just, a lot of people that will just, they'll just never like the story.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They just don't like the story of somebody writing songs whose parent is a rock icon. It's just kind of it's something about this. It's like a bad story. I mean, I understand. It sounds like a bad story to me too.
Right.
I mean, if I say
they're like, this
now,
fucking guy.
I don't know why. It just doesn't seem to. A lot of people they will, they just have a lot of contempt for the story, whether they, investigate it or not. I mean, I just think a lot of people would never even pay attention to it, kind of just on principle. They wouldn't even give it a listen because they wouldn't like the story. As opposed to, I don't know, in Hollywood, it's kind of a different kind of thing or something. You know what I mean? People don't mind, like, Kate Hudson, I mean, they like it. They love it. Like, she looks just like her mom, and she's funny and cute, too, and she looks just like Goldie Hawn, and, whatever. I think
it's different.
They love it, and then they just let it go or whatever, it's over. It's just, people have a different, I've thought a lot about this issue, and then we could, I think a lot of what it is that rock and roll and counterculture and hip hop too, obviously, for that matter. There's a huge amount of investment in the mythology of the working class hero.
Yeah, you're so right there.
And people like that story about rock and roll. They like a working class hero. They like someone who comes up from the streets and has a lot of talent and makes it and then represents their community, or they just like that story, and they like that. That's the story people want to buy into for the most part. So second generation, it's just it's
silver
tough,
spoon shit, right?
I don't know what it. Yeah, maybe it's that, or it's just. I mean, it's a complex. It's a complex thing, and I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I guess there hasn't been. Has there been any second generation hip hop artists?
There's the kid. What's his name? The There was a guy who had a son. I forget his name, and it was baby. Oh God!
I think you just answered my question.
Yeah, nobody's Bow Wow, little Bow Wow. Or whatever.
Right.
His dad was famous, and now I think he just goes by Bow Wow or something. I don't know, but yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, like if Jay-Z's kid
I wonder because that's a community that really is about coming out
Come from the streets
and whatnot, and having that kind of street cred and the rise out of the community. I mean, that is really about that. So I wonder how that audience responds to. I mean, because now there's certainly going to be generations of kids who come out of serious wealth.
Yeah,
hip hop wealth.
Unless the hip hop wealth is gone.
What?
Unless they spend it all.
Well, they're not. They can't spend it all. It's too massive.
Right.
Anyway, I digress.
Was it easy?
What else is there to talk about?
I mean, yeah, of course. I'm just covering that at the top.
Dean, I don't know, man. I mean, it's a drag. I don't want to. Anyway, let's talk about something else. I don't want to. It's horrible.
Exactly.
It's all awful. If I were out buying a record, I wouldn't listen to some kid of a rock star either.
Well, I mean, I'm great friends with Jacob for 25 years, and the first 5 years, I didn't know he was Bob Dylan's son. You know what I mean? It didn't really matter to me because the music's great. You just go, oh, that's Bob Dylan's son. You go, oh, cool, and then you just move on. I understand.
It only really applies. This thing is, I've also noticed that it only really applies to kids who are kids of real icons. Like that's what I'm talking about. That's when it gets weird. Because actually, if you look at a lot of the rock and roll community, bands and stuff like that, every other band has got someone's the kid of somebody who's in the creative community. I mean, their parents were some kind of creative in music or in something. I mean, it's all over. But people don't begrudge them.
Not
anything.
At all. Yeah, we're talking about like five guys.
Just like, exactly. Yeah. We really are. And really somehow when it gets to people's feelings and possessiveness about, the Beatles or Bob Dylan or, other icons.
Sean Lennon.
It becomes, I don't know, people have a weird response to it. But I don't know. What can I do about it, Dean?
Yeah, nothing.
Got any advice for me?
Well, I mean, I don't know what your life was like growing up as Paul Simon's kid. My father wasn't around, you know what I mean? So I played rock. Probably a lot of the angst and stuff was from that, but I also love, when I look back on it, I enjoyed the freedom of having no parents around. My mom worked like crazy. My dad was never around. I'm only child. And now that I look back at it, I kind of dug it, So I don't know what that's like to have a father. Was he around or was he on the road? I don't know, So I'm only covering that because we just get the elephant out of the room and then we get on to other shit.
It's fine. To be honest with you, normally I actually don't ever talk about this stuff in interviews, by the way.
Exactly. Well,
I don't. I say up front, or my manager says up front because it's too fucking awful. And boring, right. I just don't. Yeah. But anyway, you're a cool guy, so anyway, you decided to ask me about it. So
the only reason I asked you was One Trick Pony. That was the only reason.
Well, I'll tell you one thing about One Trick Pony, and then we'll move on.
Yep.
I'm sure very few people probably know what that is, but or remember it, or unless they're. I mean, maybe some people do, but it was a feature film that my dad made. A lot of it is about his family life and my mom and me, and there's a kid who plays me, and it's kind of weird. I haven't seen it in years and years.
Right. What year was it? 70?
80.
Oh, 80?
Yeah.
There you go.
So I was like 8. In fact, I'm in the first scene of the movie as a young version of my dad.
Right.
Actually, as a kid, I'm in the movie, but but I was thinking about it the other day because, just because I've been thinking about Lou Reed, and Lou Reed's in the movie.
Heavy duty, right?
He's acts in the film. He plays a kind of a schmaltzy record producer.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of, because I've been thinking so much about Lou Reed, and him and my dad were pals, and my dad, they liked each other. And
Yeah.
I was thinking about it the other day because my dad once told me that they, my dad asked him to be in One Trick Pony. He's making the mini. He's like, okay, let's have a meeting about it. You want to come meet? We're going to meet with the producers, and you come in and talk about your role or whatever. And Lou Reed came to the meeting in full leather S&M gay bondage gear.
Fucking love that, right? Just that old meat packing district,
Totally.
New York.
Yeah.
Remember the Pacino film Cruising?
Yes, it was exactly at that time.
That's so great. I love that Lou Reed era when he was just leather, It's great because you're thinking of Lou Reed. That's my Lou Reed. I think people have different Lou Reeds, You got the 60s Lou Reed, the art one, and I like the leather, just bizarre, what the fuck is that guy?
Have you already talked about Lou Reed on your podcast? Have you done?
No, this is it. So it's really cool because
Lou Reed died,
you grew up in New York, and I want to tell you, the honest truth to me was when I was growing up, I didn't like New York rock. At all. I didn't like Talking Heads. I didn't like Lou Reed, Velvet Underground. I wasn't into that, I was a California kid. I was into Neil Young, AC/DC, Van Halen. I didn't even like Springsteen growing up till later on. But what happened was when the second wave, I call, of the New York rock came, when the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, the Strokes, that whole thing started firing up. Kings of Leon, they're not from there. But anyway, when that scene was going, I was in New York quite a bit playing music, and I really got immersed into it. And then people were like, well, you don't even like Velvet Underground. How do you like the Strokes? And then I started backtracking. And just recently, I really got into Talking Heads, man. I'm fucking way deep into it. And also that movie Control about Joy Division. So it's so great for me because now I've found like I don't need new bands. There's shit out there that's so great that I still haven't even listened to.
Oh, really? Well, I wish I could stay the same.
Well,
I feel like there's nothing left for me to listen to, but I've been through it all, and I just don't even. I don't know.
Yeah, you're 41.
Yeah.
What were you listening to when you were younger, though? Like in high school, were you listening to rock? Because that was my rock phase. You know what I mean? Like, who were you listening to?
Well, I was listening to a lot of punk rock at the time.
Like what, Black Flag, hardcore stuff? Yeah,
I did like that too. I only knew about California punk, from a distance. It was just kind of, myth to me.
Dead Kennedys. Did you get in it?
Them and, the LA scene seemed very romantic to me. X and the Germs.
Yeah.
And, Black Flag and Fear,
Leaving.
Fan of Fear and, that. The Penelope Spheris, Decline and Fall of Western Civilization Part 1 was like such a, fascinating movie. And even like Repo Man, I had a whole romantic idea of what was going on out here.
Yeah.
And I listened to those records. But I was really too young to, I caught some of the very tail end of, I guess, the hardcore movement in New York,
right.
When I'd go to see
CBGBs.
They used to have Sunday afternoon hardcore matinees, all ages matinees, so, I caught what was going on there, and it was pretty much dead, but there was still some stuff going on, just the tail end of the dying hardcore scene.
Yeah.
I didn't actually really get into Lou Reed and Velvet Underground kind of till later, till
right.
more when I wasn't really, like, when I was a teenager, I don't know if I really quite had taken that on.
Yeah, I think I just didn't.
That was more later, and then it did have an absolutely huge impact on me. I mean, the Velvet Underground and Lou Reed. I still listen to it. He had such a strong aesthetic, and reading. I've kind of stayed away from the internet and reading too much about Lou Reed since he died, because there's been so much, and I didn't want to get annoyed by people and their, pompous, pretentious opinions about Lou Reed or whatever. I mean, I have my own feelings about Lou Reed. I don't need to read a lot of people's tweets and shit like that. But when I read the New York Times obit and everything, I mean, I so agreed with his aesthetic kind of all the way down the line. I mean, I really did. And
full artist.
I could go on and on about him, really. And maybe I should a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I even tweeted that I even liked Lulu.
I didn't hear Lulu.
You know why I liked it? Because I love Metallica back in the day. They were so outside the fucking box. You're like, what is this? To me, Metallica is San Francisco. That's where I grew up. This fucking band. They're 4 guys doing speed, and they're playing metal. They live in a house in some shitty fucking area. And to me, it's a version of Lou Reed, like playing stuff that they're not looking to get famous. You know what I'm saying? Lou Reed's not looking to get famous. He's looking to make statements. He's looking to do art, and he hung out in one of the coolest art scenes of all time.
Yeah, which was very much about and very much interested in fame and profile and press and making a scene and making a big, I mean, it was very conscious of that. But it was the Warhol scene. So, I mean, I don't know if I'd exactly put him in that category. I think he very much knew when he was decided, when Warhol decided to come on and, quote, produce the first Velvet Underground album, I think they very much knew that
association
was not really about music, but more about becoming famous and about becoming, making
but that's
an impact
different
on the
fame.
Scene.
That's different fame. You know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about a fame where it's like, let's expose some good shit to America. That's a good fame, don't you think?
Sorry.
Oh, good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure. I mean,
like if you have, let's say, you say like, let's say that Warhol wants to produce the record. You go, well, this is going to get it to the right people that we want to hear it. No,
I think it was a brilliant move. Obviously it's in the history books now and it's all very well documented, but there was just so many things about him and that band that were great. And, I mean, it's pretty fascinating that it's what it spawned and the inspiration, how many bands and artists and musicians and, that it inspired, and this kind of legacy that was so right on, really. I mean, it really, that it kind of led to whatever glam rock and into the CBs and Patti Smith and the symbolist poetry thing, and combining a, kind of a kitschy, junky street life, gay subculture thing with symbolist poetry and Delmore Schwartz, and there's just so many things that are really interesting about it. And he was obviously so far ahead of his time and not appreciated famously, by America at that moment, which was very much had its head in a different place of, peace and love and bell bottoms and Haight-Ashbury and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, the rebel on Vietnam.
And that, and a whole bunch of other things that I also quite love. I think he looked at it as kind of a divisive thing, or he got to somewhat carve out an identity, being sort of in opposition to that, or at least aesthetically opposed.
Yeah.
If not politically.
I always get attracted to stuff that's like, I like that early New York stuff because I like the old New York, like 52nd Street, like the dirty New York. I like, Bukowski. I like Tom Waits. I like anything that's like really like wow, this is where it takes you into that world. You know what I mean? Because some people fear to go into that world. I like to hear about it, and then I like to engage in that world. You know what I'm saying? Let's get in there and see what they're talking about. And I think they're maps that lead me to those areas in my life.
Yeah.
Of drugs or sex or incredible art like paintings or fucking whatever it is. A lot of great guys have inspired me to get into that kind of stuff.
Did they inspire you to have you ever had sex with a transvestite?
No, it hasn't, but it's not like I would fear it. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, oh, fuck that. It's just kind of like, it never really came up. But I can see if you're...
But if you met the right one.
If you're loaded on drugs and you're on a run, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, hey, whatever happens, happens.
I was loaded on drugs for a long time, but it never happened for me either. And now I fear it probably won't.
Yeah. Yeah, it never happened. But when
I was just trying to bait you into telling us a juicy story, Dean.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to get into these really dark, long drug runs that I really liked, where you could stay up as long as you could and really get into the back of your mind.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't do it now because I fear of death. I love to be alive now. But if I knew I could do drugs and not die, I'd be doing them right now.
Oh, really?
I did make a lot of mistakes on drugs.
I can't say the same. But,
right. Now, you had some drug problems. Tell me what happened. You got into drugs. How old were you? I mean, I talk about drugs on here all the time, so it's not like you're the first guy. Like, whoa.
Okay, I don't care. I just was wondering if there was something more interesting to talk
about.
No,
I'm just curious. We'll just roll through it, but I'm just saying, I just quit one day. You know what I mean? I could see I've taken as far as I could, and I was bored with it. I was like, all right, I did the drugs. I did a lot of booze. Cool. Bam. I'm out. But I could see where I was spiraling downhill. Like I threw a fucking full drink in an A&R guy's face at an award show.
Dean, good job.
Yeah, right? That kind of shit. And then you're like, well, maybe I ought to stop partying for a bit. But also it was fucking up my voice. That's really why I had to quit, because I was like, either I quit drinking or I get vocal nodes and I have to get laser surgery, and then I can't work for 6 months. At the time I'm touring, I can't do that. I got 4 guys in the band. You know what I mean?
Is there still a lot of drugs in the comedy scene?
I don't think so. It's a different gig now. There's too much work to be done, and I think if you're super famous, it'll be tolerated, but there's too much money on the table for shit that goes down. Movies and shows and stuff. People are like, this fucking guy was high and he didn't make it here or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're out of there because it's just too much money, and there's too many guys doing it now. You know, it's like the next guy's not going to be doing drugs, and the door's going to open right up and he's going to roll in there while you're sleeping during the day from a bad bender.
Yeah. I agree. That's pretty much how it is in show business.
Same with music. There's no, I think all musicians are fake outlaws now. You know what I mean? Like when I was growing up, it was drugs and it was play hard. Play as hard as you could as far as music and rolling, you know? But now I don't see that. You know, I see a guy with a wallet chain and some skinny jeans. They say, put this on. This is what the kids are wearing. And here's the songs you're going to do.
I don't know. If you're young, it's probably going on.
I mean, I don't know. I don't see it.
No?
No.
Well, I don't see it, but I figure that's just because because I'm past it, past that phase. And I don't know too many people.
You can look at guys, right? You look at a guy and you go, that guy fucking lived it.
I like to, I don't want to, I don't particularly want to hire people who are to play. I mean, I'm the same. I like people who have been through it, though.
Me too.
I like somebody I like a kind of psychedelically minded person who's lived a little bit to work with. But I probably don't have a lot of time for junkie behavior. And had so much junky bullshit behavior that I dished out that I, probably for sure kept me from doing lots of gigs and having lots of opportunities.
Right. Junkie behavior, I don't stand for at all. I was always a guy like powder's cool, but if you're using needles, I'm out of here because it becomes it becomes my problem now, your problem. You're shooting dope, you can't make the gig, and now it's my problem. You know what I'm saying? And I find a lot of people are cool if you do blow, but if you do dope, they're like promoters and stuff. They're like, nah, man, this guy, get him out of here. You know what I mean?
In comedy world?
No, just in the music world. I don't think there's any dope in the comedy world.
Blow has got to be the... I've always thought that drug it's incredible how it kills your sense of humor.
Blow.
Why would comics want to take blow? It absolutely handicaps your sense of humor, doesn't it? It always did for me.
It did me too. Blow is a weird thing for me. When I do blow, I become an introvert, and I'm the opposite. It's like Ritalin for a hyper kid. I'm a hyper guy. If I do blow, the only reason I did blow was I'd be shit-faced drunk, and it would steer me straight, and I go, okay, now we can roll and keep partying. That was it. I'd never do blow sober, ever. That's gross. You get on it, you're like, you got the fucking crooked face, right? You're just like, you're rubbing your head, you're saying nonsense shit like, tomorrow we'll go to Disneyland. You're not going to Disneyland, you know what I mean? Whatever. You're trying to save the world, you know? But I think a lot of 80s comics did blow because the stage is
70s comics did.
Yeah. The stage is such a high.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're up there and you're fucking knocking it out, man, there's nothing feels better. I played a couple thousand gigs musician wise, a couple thousand just nonstop for years. Maybe out of those couple thousand, 5 I can count that were euphoric and magical, where you don't even really remember. You get off and go, man, that was the one. But with comedy, I probably had a couple hundred of those.
Really? You get more gratification from that kind of exchange of energies with the audience.
Yeah, because I think there's no instruments or anything clouding anything.
No, it's very direct, huh?
Yeah, you get in this pocket and you're going, you know what I mean? And then they start laughing, and this natural thing happens where you start coming up with stuff spontaneous, and then this magic happens, and when that starts going, it's like a fucking high. You're like, man, there's no better. So I think when the guys step off, they need to keep going on that. You know, that's why I think a lot of the cocaine was going. And also the 80s, like if you got Kinnison and those guys, that's a heavy rock and roll era too in Hollywood. So, you know, I think they're just rolling. You got Guns N' Roses around. Kinnison's like, fuck yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. Well, I guess he was a bad drug addict too, so.
Right.
Well, that's cool. I don't, I'd like to go, I don't see a lot of stand-up, you know.
Who do you like?
You're going to have to invite me out or something to see
I want you to come out.
You know, but I did grow up around a lot of comedy. You know, I know a lot about comedy. I know a lot about the history of comedy.
You grew up around comedy?
Well, yeah, sure. Because, my dad's best friend is Lorne Michaels. So
oh, wow.
I grew up, you know, I was sort of the... one of the only kids who was kind of running around in the in Studio 8H a bit in the first 5 years of SNL when Lorne was there.
Are you kidding?
Because most people didn't have any kids by then on SNL because they were all too young.
Yeah. How old were you?
Well, I was like, you know, probably age 5 to 10.
And you were around Belushi and shit?
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding?
All that stuff, you know.
Dude, that's like, to me, the first 5 years.
Very, very much in that gang.
Yeah.
So, you know, I knew a lot of the writers, and I still know quite a few people from that time. I know some anyway. So, I grew up around that, and I grew up just around a lot of other very
That
funny
shit's
people,
monumental, though.
directors and writers and comedians and people from show business. I mean, those were people who were around more than musicians,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. That was my dad socially was more into that scene and whatever, art world, writers,
Right.
playwrights, different kind of people that he found interesting. I mean, he went to work in music and worked with his band, but it wasn't so much a part of his social scene. And I'm kind of the same way. It's not such a big part of my social scene actually either, but it's kind of, I do love to play with musicians.
Yeah. I mean, you got
But yeah, so I grew up with a lot of it, and I know it very well, and I know the history of comedy very well. I know, the records. I know Nichols and May, and I know Lenny Bruce, and I know Richard Pryor, and I know Andy Kaufman, and I know Monty Python, and I know that stuff very deep. I know the catalogs pretty well.
Right.
I would imagine I would probably know it as well as most people working in professional comedy.
Right, yeah.
I'm not.
So you're a fan?
Even though I'm not that. It's not my profession.
Right, yeah. You ever thought about doing comedy?
Not performing comedy. I mean,
I'll tell
I'm
you
sure
what.
I would enjoy writing some comedy, but I mean, I'm somebody that has I love comedy, and I have a writer's brain, and I have a sense of humor, and I don't, I've never had to turn that into, I've never tried. It's never been my field. So I don't have to turn that into,
Right.
I don't have a professional. I don't have to mine
Yeah.
jokes and material, which is a whole other realm of thinking about when you're trying to
It's so hard.
make a buck and write on a show or pitch yourself, and the whole vocabulary and the licks of comedy and jokes, and you're a joke person and whatever. I mean, that always sounds like a pretty heavy grind, and often maybe not so much fun. I mean,
Yeah.
well, I mean, it probably is as fun as it could be if it's going great, but I don't know. I've never had to do that, and I kind of probably just enjoy being on the periphery of that and not having to try to, get jobs.
Yeah. I haven't seen you live, obviously. But do you tell little stories between songs? Because that's really, on my last couple years of playing music, as I was playing solo acoustic, opening for Wallflowers, subconsciously, I think in the back of my mind, I started thinking, I'm going to start tweaking
Crafting your stage pattern.
a little bit to see just a little taste of stuff. Did this thing where I did a joke where I thought it would be funny if Tom Waits and the Stray Cats did a song together. They were called the Tomcats, and it was really hokey, but I just wanted to see if it'd work. And I'd be like, "Oh, black and old stray cat sitting on the fence." Oh, I'd get a laugh. And then I'd tell some stories about songs. I knew how to kind of tell quick little pow stories that would get them laughing and then go into it.
Sure.
But I'll tell you who's fucking probably one of the funniest guys I know, I think, is Jacob Dylan. No one will ever see that side of him, but I think he's super spontaneous. If you're having a conversation with him, he can clown like no one I've seen. That guy could have been a comedian star.
Huh. Well, we just met recently. We I don't know him very well, but but that's, I'm not surprised. I mean, I mean, I haven't seen that side of him yet, but I mean, obviously,
Yeah, I don't think
his
anybody
dad's
has
very
this.
funny, and they're all smart kids, and
Yeah.
I'm sure he's got a good sense of humor.
It's just amazing, though. When
Most people out of rock and roll have a pretty good sense of humor.
They do.
Actually.
They do. if you hang out with guys, you just go, it's funny as fuck, rock guys. There's nothing funnier than dudes on a tour bus.
Yeah, you spend so much time on a tour bus or a van, and people just trying to make each other laugh and stuff.
It's
people
true.
Like to keep the spirits high. Like to listen to comedy and think about I mean, it's always been a part of rock and roll, probably.
It really has.
And it's nice too that the worlds of comedy and rock and roll entwine in that way.
Yep.
Actually.
Yeah. I mean, even, in the 70s, comics
Big
opened
time.
for bands,
Sure.
like big ass ones, You go see, like, say, Neil Young, and there'd be a comic opening. I saw Tweety about 10 years ago.
Still, this goes on. I mean,
Yeah, it still goes on. It's just a different dynamic.
I did it, and I tried to do it. I did a residency over at Spaceland. I had my friend Morgan Murphy came in.
Oh, I know Morgan.
She came.
Yeah.
She was hilarious.
She's
did
really
like
funny.
10 minutes before we went on, stuff like that. I always try to incorporate it in there.
Yeah, I saw Tweety on a solo tour. I think it's back in 96, 8, I don't know, something. Back then, his first solo tour. And he had a guy from Chicago that dressed up kind of like a Mexican waiter or something. And he was fucking amazing. And he came on before Tweety, and he would say crazy shit about Tweety. He'd be like, oh, yeah, Jeff is downstairs shooting up right now, so he'll be up pretty soon. And people are like, whoa, you know what I mean? It was great. Outside the box fucking cool, But I think it has to be an acoustic gig. Because if people are standing there, like recently I did comedy and they're there to say, like, see Pearl Jam, and you go on and do 10 before them, they're just kind of like, it's different dynamic.
Well, it's probably, if the crowd's big, that's probably very hard for many comedians to know how to play to that kind of audience. Anyway, also a rock audience is probably especially challenging because they aren't there for the comedy.
Nope.
Right? And they probably tend to be a bit of a unruly crowd anyway.
Yeah. My buddy Florentine opened for Slayer 2 months ago at Megadeth and shit. He'd have to do 3 10-minute spots.
That sounds challenging.
That's unbelievable, right? He'd just come out, they'd be like, die, motherfucker. Right when he walk on, he'd go, hey, what's going on? And he's on a fucking show, that metal show, They know him, but they're still like, you're cutting into our time, bitch. Like, he was saying that people in their minds think, like, he's on for 10. That's 2 Slayer songs that he's, like, he thinks that people think that they're taking away time from Slayer. Get him off immediately. There's 2 songs we could have, And it's like, what? No, they have me coming out, you dick. You know what I mean? That's hard, man. I couldn't do that. To me, comedy can be a real bummer if the audience has been hijacked into a comedy show that they don't know they're supposed to be at.
Right.
Because now you're saying, be quiet, don't tweet, don't text.
Right.
And they're like, hey, what are you talking about? We're at a show. Fuck you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, once in a while.
It must be tough.
When I started, I would do bar shows, and there'd be a football game going, and they go, okay, now comedy. And they go, what? Fuck you. Raider game's on, It is tough, man. Comedy's way harder than music.
It must be so brutal half the time, or more than half the time. But anyway, isn't that stuff all part of your, comics character building experiences?
It is.
Go out and just do shit. Gig after shit. I mean,
it's brutal. Like music, when you play shit gigs, there's nothing worse, right?
Yeah. I've definitely played my share.
Right. You're just there, and you're like, oh man, Like my buddy always says, I play the gig for free. It's the time off stage you're paying me for. You're away from home. So if the gig isn't good and then you're away from home, it's a double whammy of like, God, man. What now? Your record came out in 10 and then the new one came out in March of 13, right?
Yeah, May, yeah.
Did you tour these records?
Yeah, I did some touring.
You like touring?
The first
I love
time
it.
I did I did Bonnaroo Festival, and I did I opened for some different people.
Who were you out with?
Marianne Faithfull and Chris Christopherson. And,
Wow.
I did a bunch of different things. I did, TV shows, David Letterman and Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon. And this time around I did, and I toured the East Coast and the West Coast. And I did, I toured. This summer I did the Tonight Show, and then went out with the Polyphonic Spree for all
that's
summer
right.
long. We through America. And I suppose I'll try to get on another tour and do another tour at Europe or America again. If
You tour with a band or
I
solo?
toured with a band, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the first record is kind of singer-songwriter. It's really cool. I love it. It's got a lot of pedal steel. And it's got that kind of... it's just beautiful, like to me, like a 70s kind of, like I'm hearing Beechwood Canyon. It's just like a Beechwood Canyon, you know, that kind of vibe. And then the second one really, to me, has kind of a psychedelic drug vibe. Like, to me, I put it on, I was like, I love the contrast of the two fucking records.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, everyone always says that. I didn't intend for them to be so to have such a different aesthetic, but
It's really
I don't know.
cool.
The first one I did, I mean, it was cool because I went down to Nashville and I worked with Bob Johnston, who produced a lot of great records in the '60s, like most of the Dylan records from the '60s, Highway 61, Nashville Skyline, Blonde on Blonde, and he produced John
All the
Cash,
classics,
Leonard Cohen, all this stuff. And I went down there and he roped a lot of those great old session players, classic players. And that was
who played the
real,
pedal steel on it? The guy from George
Lloyd
Jones?
Green played.
Fuck.
Most of the pedal steel. He played on the Birds, Sweethearts of the Rodeo.
Yeah.
And, a lot of great stuff. And then my idea was to kind of have some of that and then mix it in with some kind of New York, hipsters and stuff. And that was an interesting experience. And then the second record, I just didn't want to, I just didn't want to be I didn't want to get put in the Americana box, to tell you the truth. I didn't want to get stuck there, and I wanted to make a record that was more kind of about New York and the records I grew up listening to in New York,
Right.
Like the Velvet Underground and and the Ramones and the Talking Heads and whatever, more like the Stones and.
Yeah, but I love that
and
because
some different stuff. I was working with Tom Rothrock out here, who did all the Elliott Smith records and everything. So I wanted an acoustic kind of folk rock thing to kind of blend in there with my Ron Ashton Stooges thing or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know if my voice really works within that palette exactly so well. I don't know.
It was
they were
cool.
both my experiments, and some things I liked about how they turned out and some things I didn't.
Yeah, I think you were wise on that, because what happens is if you get locked into this singer-songwriter or, say, early Wilco, alt country, that thing was going on with Sunvolt and all that stuff, you get locked into that. I think that the fans are great, but they're also rude too. Like if you try anything different. So Tweety was wise when he ditched with that Yankee Foxtrot record. You know,
absolutely.
It's you got to eventually say, "Hey, man, I'm not working for you. I'm working for me. I'm an artist, and I want to feel some different
unless
shit."
that just really is your identity and the thing that you love, and you came up doing it, and that's your thing, and you're really a purist, and you want to stick with it. But I mean, for me, that's not who I am. But it's a part of who I am, and it's part of something that I love. And my mom comes from Tennessee, and I grew up loving old country music, and I love honky tonk and George Jones, and
Yeah,
Hank
George
Williams
Jones,
and
great, right?
Songwriters from Nashville, and I love that stuff. But I love a lot of different kinds of music.
Yeah, what's your favorite?
I don't know if I have a favorite.
Yeah,
really,
right. It's just moods, right? To me, it's just what mood I'm in. Like today, I had Free on. I just had this desk. It felt like this old fucking desk from the 50s. It's metal. I just think of some guy made that in a factory in Detroit somewhere.
Yeah.
And I put on Free, and Free is just so sparse to me. It's like three guys on the instruments and then this great vocal coming out.
Yeah.
But it's real sparse, but it really delivers this. There's some records I put on that really are like a drug. Like if I put on that Free Fire and Water record, I feel like I'm on some drugs, like some kind of low magnet, like The way it is just like boom, 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 boom. You're just like, wow. You know, there's so much holes and pockets in there.
Oh, maybe I need to get that record.
It's a masterpiece. That one free record. It's like Face's first record, you know, with Flying and that stuff.
I love the Faces, yeah.
Yeah, right. You just get into it. It's like, I'm flying. It's so 70s to me. I'm like, you know. So this desk came into my life today, and that's why I picked Free.
Uh-huh.
But earlier I was listening to your record, and I was just like, yeah, I'm up here in fucking Beechwood. I got the psychedelic record on your second one, you know? And I'm like, this is cool, you know? So music really, really affects my my core as drugs do. I could put a record on Sunday, like every Sunday my mom was a wild woman. She would have parties Friday, Saturday. They'd drink fucking Boone's Farm, maybe do some drugs or whatever. And this party would go full on. And on Sunday, when Tapestry would come on, I knew the party was over. And I think part of me loves that record because as a child, I was like, I'm going to get my mom back. And it's going to mellow everything out. It's going to be Sunday, you know? So I could put Tapestry on Sundays, and it's like, it just really gets me there.
Yeah. Well, that kind of brings up an interesting... I mean, I wonder if that is largely... Do you think that's being lost? I mean, I feel like people's connection to records in the way you're describing is going away. But maybe it's just turning into something else. But because there was a time... because there was a time when there was only so many records that were released.
Right.
And you had to buy them. They weren't free. And when you bought a record, it meant a few things. It meant, first of all, you know, you only probably had so much disposable income. And, like, you decided, like, I'm going to spend my, you know, $7 on Carole King's Tapestry or... David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust, and I'm going to listen to it forever, you know, I'm going to listen to it like, I love that record, I'm going to listen to it forever, and it becomes like a part of you, and you're like, I identify as a fan of Ziggy Stardust, and that's part of who I am. I like Ziggy Stardust, and I don't like something else, and I'm going to give my money to David Bowie because, in a sense, it's like a vote of I'm going to sponsor the Spiders from Mars.
Commitment.
Here's my $10. I believe in you. I believe in this band, and I am a David Bowie fan. And therefore, you know what that means to somebody growing up, and you know, whether in that time or even in my time. I just wonder, and then of course, you know, like you said, you know, you'll have these moments where Carole King's Tapestry has the significance for you, and it reminds you of being this age and this thing, and you played it over and over again. You played the album, you know, you didn't play one song from it or whatever. The album came on, it was an album, it meant something to you. And I think a lot of, aside from music being people, you know, pirating music or Spotify, which is probably essentially the same, more or less, in terms of money because it pays so little to musicians. I think there's something that's lost in terms of like a connection to records and bands where, you know, it's not just about people take a song for free or they pay 99 cents or maybe they don't. They put it on their mixtape and it's going on. They have so much content coming at them every second of the day. Video content, YouTube, take a song, look at that. You know, it's just they're like lost in a sea of content. And
it's true.
I wonder what is being lost culturally and even spiritually, if that doesn't sound too pretentious.
No, it's supposed to sound like spiritually, though. I mean, this is how heavy it gets for me. When I was young, I didn't have any money. If I bought a record that I didn't like, it really affected me. It almost made me sick, like, oh, man, $8 down the drain and people can't fathom what I'm saying right now, but it would really fucking bum me out. Like, oh, they only had one fucking song, really? And it would just shatter me. $8 was a lot of money. I'm only 47, but still, when you come from no money and you spend $8 and get home and you put it on and it's junk, it's like, wow, it really makes you seek out
Well,
stuff.
maybe that's one of the good things about how, you know, how things have changed. I mean, maybe people, they don't have that experience so much in the same way because they don't spend the $8.
But the emotion's gone. They don't have any emotion invested into this record. Because when you spend $8 and you got like Neil Young's On the Beach and you got home and put that on, it was like, I would have gave this guy 100. You know what I mean? Because this guy deserves all my money for what I'm going to get out of this record for the next 30 fucking years, you know, of my life or whatever. The stuff that some of these
and
artists
then the connection that people have to those records also translate into often lifelong commitments to going and see that artist live, you know, because you want to go, you're going to go see Neil Young now. When you're going to play a song from On the Beach, it's going to bring you back to that time where you took spent your $8 and you went home and you put this on. You're like, this is my new favorite record, you know, and that's going to have real significance for you, you know.
It really does. I don't know what out there has significance for people like that.
That's a very, that connection, I feel, is really unique to music in a way. It's really unique to rock and roll, and it's why it sits in a special place in the culture, or it has for many, many years. Because people people also have deep feelings and deep connections and inspiration from art and theater and films and all sorts of things, but.
I think there's certain films too. Up until around 80, there's movies made that'll touch the fuck out of you,
and you can see them forever and ever.
That's right.
Yeah.
Deer Hunter. It comes on. I sit down. I watch the Deer Hunter.
Yeah.
I watch The Godfather 1 and 2. I watch Jaws. I watch these films, Raging Bull, over and over and over, and I just go, wow. You know, they're like classic records.
Yeah, and they're deep artistic experiences in the sense that there's so many layers to them, and you get new things out of them. And you become an older person, and you go back and you watch The Deer Hunter again, and it's got all these levels you never understood before, maybe because you've lived, maybe because you just
they mean
something in it. And,
that's right, you're right.
You want, well, anyway, we're talking about...
You're right, though.
The difference between, we're talking about art, really.
We are talking about art. I think my whole life is geared around art. I've been a performer for 30 years, music and now comedy. I've done movies, and that's why when we were talking, when I first met you, I didn't know who you were. I was like, I got to have the guy on the podcast. We're having a pretty interesting conversation about producers. You can't have these kind of conversations with everyone on the street. So when I meet somebody that I can talk to about something, I go, oh, I could talk to this guy for hours. I could already tell. You know what I mean? And it's not like I'm some art dick or whatever, but when somebody's into a good record or a good film or an amazing painting, then I'm like, oh, well, these guys are invested in sitting back for a minute and checking something out.
Yeah, and a lot of it's about having the chops to know, where things fit in the fabric of the culture and art and the history of art and what it means. I feel like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just complaining on your podcast.
No, not at all.
Anyway, I have a tendency to do that, and it's awfully dull. So.
No, it's perfectly honest.
Anyway, I think it's important to have a sense of the different generations and different schools and different... when you go see a movie, I don't know, we can talk about Raging Bull
Yep.
How you and I can talk about it because how I can talk about it because, you know, I know Scorsese's body of work, and
Yep.
I also know the bodies of work of his peers and that whole era, and it's very special to me. And it's just that 70s in Hollywood, and I love it. It's very important to me, and you know, knowing that and how it relates to the generation before, and where it kind of sits in the social, political, cultural fabric of you know, the last 50 years is important. I do feel it's important to know that stuff, and
Yeah, you dig backwards, right?
Strangely, that it's very rare to kind of. It's not. I don't know if it's rare, but it seems like a lot of people I run into. I don't know. Do you think that's going away?
I don't think so. I do a lot of shows, and people listen to the podcast, and I always like to pride myself on the podcast as I like to have people on I call the real deal. I always say that, like, oh, this guy's the real deal. I liked people that listen to the podcast are, look, I can have a guy on this couch and we could talk pussy jokes. I know where to fucking go on that. You know what I mean? And I also know where to go on into some art stuff. There's room for both. But what I like to do is explore it all. Can I do a pussy joke or a shit joke? Yeah. But can I also do a joke about Bob Dylan playing guitar? Fuck yeah, whatever. That's what I was saying.
Can you weave in a joke about Bob Dylan playing the guitar and a pussy joke into one joke?
Well, you can if you're fucking.
Do it.
If you're smart.
Do it right now.
I don't know. You know what I mean?
Come on.
I have a Bob Dylan story, and people laugh at it. And
well, first, just tell me a pussy joke.
Yeah, I don't have a pussy joke, but I can do one.
You were saying.
I know, but if I have a guy on the couch. And
if he knows the pussy joke, then you can jump in.
I know how to fucking.
But you don't actually know a pussy joke.
No, because I'm not trying to say I'm some fucking art king, is what I'm saying. I can get down on a shit
Are you
joke.
trying to say you're a pussy king?
Yeah. A Pinocha king. I'm just saying, I can get heavy and I can also get fucking goofy. I can get both ways. You know what I'm saying?
A pussy king and an art king walk into a bar.
A pussy king and an art king walk into a bar. Which one gets laid? I think the art king in this neighborhood, right?
I don't know. Where are we? Or is it
We're in
Beachwood,
the 101? Dude. Where do you live?
Beachwood. Yeah, I just live one canyon over. Well, Laurel Canyon.
Oh, Laurel Canyon. That's right. Yeah. Hey, you grew up in New York, though, right?
Yeah.
I love New York. You know what I love? You know what I love about New York more than anything is Karen O. I think Karen O is New York.
I know Karen O.
I think she's the greatest front woman of all time for me, besides like Tina Turner. As far as like, I've never seen someone that good.
You know, I'm gonna say, I don't know about comparisons of that nature, but I mean, Karen O is totally one-off. She's a one-off. She's a special.
I grew up in the 80s where, and I can admit it, where guys would be like, what's this band like? And they go, well, they got a chick lead singer. And they immediately like, nah, out, next. No chick rock. I grew up in that era. No chicks. You know what I mean? It was always like that, like, oh, they got a girl in the band. I swear to God, it was such a fucking stupid thing looking back now, because Talking Heads have a female on bass, whatever. Yeah. But I'd love to.
You didn't even want them to have a female bass player?
It was no chicks.
Like, fuck that.
It was rules of rock, and there was like 1 through 10. 1 was don't have a van, or you got to drive everyone around. 2 would be like don't bring your girlfriend to rehearsal. 3 was no girls in the band.
Huh.
And that's not like a macho thing. I think it was just more of like, I wasn't around where one blew me back until I
most
saw
of the time,
Harry.
Hey, let's face facts. Most of the time they can't play.
That's right. You said it, not me, dude.
Hey, I'm just saying most of the time.
But when I saw Karen O, she rings to me art. She rings to me. She's beautiful. She could sing. I can't fucking believe how good she is.
She's got a lot of integrity too, and she's very interesting, and she keeps it interesting. And Nick
she's got
Zinner
mystique.
Is great too. The from the guitar player from the
Yeah.
80s. He's great, and he actually played on a track on my record, but I had to cut it. I had to recut it, and
Right.
I lost his thing. But he was super fun to play with.
And then the drummer Max Weinberg's pretty good,
I
right?
never met. I never.
He looks like Max Weinberg from the
Oh,
'70s, man.
is he not called Max something?
I don't know what
I
his
don't know.
name
He's the
is.
one I haven't met.
Yeah, right. But man, he looks like Max Weinberg in the '70s.
Anyway, that first Yeah's album is going to stand up for real, I think.
yeah, and the Strokes, you know,
Nikolai from the Strokes
played on your
plays
record?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I know those guys a little bit. Some of them.
I really like that New York era. It got me. What a
I was definitely a
yeah. Like I was saying,
it was
then I
nice
dig
to
backwards.
see- Yeah.
You know, what do you got coming up? You doing another record?
Well,
This one just came out, right?
Yeah. I still should be supporting this one for a while more.
It's really good.
Thank you. Well, if I do another show in LA, I'll invite you.
Oh yeah. Where do you play, Largo?
I can't remember what I. I suppose I should know. I just played at the Delray for the with the Polyphonic Spree. That's what I played in LA last for this record. I kind of did it, and then I did Spaceland. Did a residency there, and
Is it still called Spaceland?
the Satellite rather.
All right.
And
Oh, I wanted to ask you about
I
a gig
can't
that you
remember.
did.
I'm going to do some more gigs. I don't know.
You did the Jerry Garcia tribute.
Yeah.
Let's talk 1 second
yeah,
about
just
that.
came out in a film. Like a DVD of it came out.
And what's it called?
I think it's called Move Me Brightly.
Did you get into the Dead early on when you were young? I grew up in San Fran, and I tell a lot of people I hated the Dead forever because it was always around me.
Yeah.
It was like the Dead I didn't like, and then I didn't like Springsteen because Born in the USA was when I was, my mom was into it. It was 84, that fucking Born. I was like, nah,
me
next.
too. I was the same.
But I remember,
But I didn't really feel that way about the Dead because I was always able to, I always understood. I looked back to their roots. I mean, I could see where they came from and then I think the Grateful Dead have a lot of integrity. I think they're a great American band.
well, once a guy turned me on to Working Man's Dead. Then I was
I
like,
love the first album. I love the first. A couple albums.
I even like Touch of Grey a lot. People don't like that era, but I like Hell in a Bucket.
That's
like
not
that.
my favorite era.
I
but
know.
I'm just gonna say the early stuff. I think is anyway. Yeah. So I somehow I know a little bit. I got connected into the San Francisco. I know some people from that scene from the kind of the original, like the OG Merry Prankster, like.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
some of that.
Yeah, so I knew, Bob Weir a little bit growing up. I mean, I'd go hang out a bit with him.
Bob Weir's amazing. You'd hang out with him.
Yeah, I knew, I'd go see the Dead, and he'd always be the one, having the party after in his room and stuff, because he was, to party. And, so I've kind of known him a little for a long time, and then, I don't know, we played together somewhere at a benefit, and then they asked me to be part of this Jerry Garcia thing.
That's great.
And it was super great, It was really, I had such a good time playing music at that thing. I can't even tell you. They really curated it in a really kind of in a classy way, actually, because there were some people from their scene, older people, and then but there were also some real kind of hip, unusual. Some guys that I knew and played with, guys from Ryan Adams' band. And
Was that
Cassie
Jackie
Combs
Green there?
Was there, who's incredible. The drummer from Vampire Weekend it was just a very odd kind of mix of people, and it was like going to Grateful Dead camp. It was 2 days of rehearsals. We had to learn there was 35. We learned a lot of songs.
Oh, you played all the songs?
I played on 10 or something.
Wow.
I weaved. Everyone kind of weaved in and out.
Right.
And we'd be sitting around with Bob. It was he was the general thing. They would be going making these extensive set lists. And who wants to play on
Yeah.
Friend of the Devil, and people would raise their hand. I guess I'll jump in on that. It was fun as hell. And then Bob's got this. He's got this kind of amazing. He took over this big structure where they film there and they can record there.
Oh, in Marin?
It's yeah.
Yep.
And
that's their whole archives.
They can stream it and film it and record there, and they had a small audience there, and so it was kind of neat. And like Luke Wilson was there he was like doing the interviews, because it was about the Jerry Garcia's would have been his 70th birthday.
Yeah.
And his kids were there, and I knew Annabelle a little bit. And
Are you afraid of death?
no, not really.
No, not at all, huh?
Well, I never, and I'm trying to be. I don't feel like I'm going to become more afraid of it.
Right.
I'm trying to become. I don't know if I
think the problem is I'm just so I'm so alive now. Like I'm doing comedy. I'm out every night. Bzzz, Hollywood. Yeah, and I just this is great. I don't want this to end. But I feel I burned it up when I was young.
Yeah, I never gave it a thought. I never thought. I never worried. I certainly dodged a lot of bullets in my life.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a lot to be grateful for in that area, for sure.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Before you go, I got this new thing. I had a guy on from the show The League. You see The League?
No.
It's a TV show on FX. It's a comedy about these guys that are in a fantasy football league. Had the guy on last week. So I came up with my own thing, Fantasy Rock League. You get to pick 4 guys and put a band together. You're not in it, but just a band you'd want to see. Who would it be?
I get to produce the band, or
well, it's just a dream band. Let's say
invent the super group.
Yeah, I hate super group, but I'm just saying, like in your mind, you're putting together a band. Who's your drummer?
Probably Charlie Watts.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one. And then who's your bass player?
Well,
bass is tough, right?
I mean, James Jamerson came to mind.
Yeah.
But I don't know why he came to mind first, but I mean, he's definitely one of my favorites. Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. Well, I guess, Bill Wyman or...
You're picking the Stones.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Are you a Stones guy?
Yeah, I'm a Stones guy.
I think from 68 to 81 could be some of the finest music ever produced by one band.
Why are you cutting out their first 4 years?
The first 4?
Yeah.
Nah.
No?
No.
You just like it from 68 on?
Once Brian Jones is out, I'm in.
Oh, really? Wow.
I mean, you got a little bit of, what is it, Beggar's Banquet?
Yeah, but you don't like, Aftermath or...
Nope. Once
early stuff.
Mick Taylor comes in, you got Exile.
Yeah. I got to say, did you see this Stones 50th?
Unbelievable. Loved
Mick
it.
Taylor coming out?
I
could not believe. I never thought I would see that.
Can you believe that?
As a rock fan, I never thought I would see Mick Taylor and
playing with the Stones again.
Yeah, it was very emotional. And then I went to the after party, and he was a dick.
Oh, was he? He was a dick?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
So you
that shows you. Don't go to the fucking after party.
Don't meet your idols.
Don't meet anyone.
What? So you went up and talked to him, and you said you're great.
Guitar players. No, I didn't even. But
Mick Taylor is probably one.
But he fucking went up there and killed it, man.
Right?
Fucking
on that "Can't You Hear Me Knocking" or
Midnight Rambler,
Midnight
which
Rambler.
I guess was his riff or something.
Yeah, which was really. I really wanted to hear
Lizzie
"Can't You Hear Me
Jagger told
Knocking"
me.
because that jam,
absolutely,
and that jam
his solo, I mean,
isn't it? I think "Can't You Hear Me Knocking" is one of the most epic fucking songs ever made because it gets into that spooky shit of.
Yeah, it's got that great kind of Latin-y percussion and stuff in there too.
Yeah, and the way it comes on, just
that lick, it's so exciting When just the entrance of it, and when drums come in, it's every time.
Yep.
It's just so fucking exciting.
It's great, man. I tell you, I'm an addict for that. There's that company that put out the Exile book, Genesis Publications. They do these like $500 books. And they did one just on. There was a kid who shot the entire photos while they were recording in France, Exile. He's just like an 18-year-old runner. He's like a kid. Yeah, I go get you drugs or booze, whatever you need. But in the meantime, he's shooting photos.
Pictures.
He's got photos of Keith Richards fucking water skiing. Keith Richards water skiing, man. How fucking you gotta see it. He's just in these short white shorts. He's got like fucking just a killer body. He's got the dopest hair going. Yeah. He's water skiing and he looks dope.
Yeah.
Keith is just bad. Keith's like, a parody of himself now. But Keith was such an outlaw,
No, he's definitely one of my heroes.
Right?
Sure.
Some of those photos of him, like that one where he's at the drug thing in Canada, and it says he's at the water fountain. These photos, famous photo, yeah. That one where John Marshall, I think it is, shot behind his amp. There's a bottle of Jack Daniels. It's an Ampeg SVT. It's that 75 era where they're playing Ampegs. Mm-hmm. He's got the curly cord, and he's got like fucking Henry Duarte fucking leather pants on or something. He's like, look at this guy, man. But that shit's great.
They had great style.
They did.
Always. All of them.
Always, right? Okay, so you got, before you go, you got guitar player. Yeah, you got guitar player and singer.
Oh, man. Oh, Jesus, Dean. I don't know.
No, you can't do it.
I mean,
Lou Reed's your
like
singer.
A jerk,
You feel like a jerk?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Fuck it. That's your band. Two-piece.
I'll come up with some other guys. I don't know. How about Muddy Waters? You could sing. Bro.
There you go.
There we go.
Fuck yeah.
Muddy Waters will
Muddy
sing.
Waters. Okay, who's your singer?
I don't know.
So you basically have...
Ron Ashton will play the guitar.
Yeah.
Just for the hell of it.
There you go.
That sounds like an interesting band.
Fuck yeah, I'd see that band. All right. So let's get. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you, Dean. This was fun.
And come see me.
I don't usually get to talk about this kind of stuff. I really wish we had talked more about comedy. Actually,
we could. The thing is, we could talk about dude.
Because nobody ever asked me about.
Let me tell you something.
No.
You talked about being on the set of Saturday Night Live. For those first 5 years, are some of the reasons I love comedy more than...
Hey, you know what you should... Okay, I'm going to give a plug.
Okay.
If you're going to like this, though, I'll plug this on your show.
Yeah.
And you should check this out, and then I'll say adios.
Yeah.
So one of the people that I still know a bit from that era, one of the original writers from Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Tom Schiller. Do you know who he
Nope.
is? Well, he's one of the original staff writers for the first 5 years of SNL. And anyway, and a very original voice in
Saturday.
amongst the writers. Yeah,
sketch writing.
very original. Yeah, he was a sketch writer, and also made very famous short films.
Which ones?
Well, the Acid Generation. Where Are They Now? You ever seen that one?
Right. Yep.
Incredible, like a gem. Anyway, his first. Well, you can just go look up Tom Schiller. He's a really original voice of comedy, but Tom and he's done over the years when he would go visit our mutual friend Libby Titus. They were old friends, and she's married to Donald Fagen from Steely Dan.
Oh yeah, love it.
And Tom and Don would. They would just kind of improvise these bits, like kind of with Donald Fagen as like the straight man.
Yeah.
And they're very original, and they're fantastically funny. And I had them. I mean, I have a lot of them that are unreleased. They're always unreleased, but recently they put up some of them.
They're sketches?
On iTunes. They're on iTunes.
Audio.
Audio.
Okay.
Called Tom and Don tapes. You can buy them on iTunes.
Tom and Don tapes.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah. They're really, really original, fantastic comedy.
Wow.
Anyway, go check. You'll like it.
I'll check it.
You'll like it, Dean.
I did a movie with...
Maybe the people listening to your podcast would like it too.
I did a movie with Garrett Morris. And like I said, you don't understand the magnitude of the first 5 years of Saturday Night Live to me. So for the first week, it's like, I'm dying to talk Saturday Night Live with him. You know what I mean? I mean, John Belushi to me is absolute god. Bill Murray. Bill Murray is on. Bill Murray, I think right now is still one of the funniest guys on earth. I mean, just think about him.
He's very special, sure.
Yeah, and then, and Wes Anderson, thank God he uses him nonstop. Because Bill Murray, all the way from Caddyshack and that Where the Buffalo Roam, Stripes, all those films when I was growing up are so fucking funny, So for you to be around that set, man, Stones played there in '78. There's some on the Some Girls tour. There's some
iconic
not there,
photos. But I was there for, I'll tell you, as a child, I was there for... The two I remember best are Randy Newman and Devo.
Oh, Devo with the fucking...
Devo made a major impact on me, I have to say.
Dude, that's hilarious because... Look at this photo on my screensaver.
Yeah.
Devo. I'm one of the biggest Devo fans ever.
Well, I saw them do Satisfaction on Saturday Night Live.
I saw them a year later on that at the Mabuhay Gardens in San Fran. Yellow suits. Then I saw him at a skateboard park. I saw him on the Freedom of Choice tour. I saw him on the on the Beautiful World one. That's what's that one called? Right after Freedom of Choice. I just had it on cassette. I found it yesterday. But
I don't know. Freedom of Choice is when I drop out.
The next one's great though too,
really?
Man. Yeah, it's got that. It's a beautiful world we live in. It's so fucking weird. We're through being cool. That record, New Traditionalist, it's called. After that, you're good. I understand. Because then they get into working with a coal mine and all that. They do a live record. But let me tell you something. Devo is so fucking iconic with me. Right? The drummer just passed away.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he left after the Freedom of Choice tour, or after the New Traditionalist, and became an electrician in Hollywood, like high end. He'd go to your house if you were rich and needed high end, like fucking stereo wired and plasma screens and shit. That's what he did, and he passed away recently, which was a bummer, man. But Devo is unbelievable. I think it was weird because I was so into Devo, but I didn't get into the other art rock bands. There was something that touched me with them. They were in that skateboard scene. You know what I mean?
Really?
Oh, fuck yeah. Their videos, the early ones, they had kids skating.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, man. And they would play skate parks and shit, like on the first tour to get going. And even when I saw them, they had a skate ramp on the stage once. But they have skateboard guys in the videos and shit. And I love that weird shit of like that mask that Mark would wear. And it'd be like, oh, where are you going? Those movies. The movies are twisted.
They really are. I was just thinking, I wonder who did them. I'm going to have to look it up now.
The movies are so fantastic. They're so weird. Like, where are you going? And the weird shit of he's in that fucking baby like crib thing, getting shocked on a toaster and mongoloid, all that stuff. It's fucking great. You saw Devo at Saturday Night Live.
I did,
What was that like before you go?
Well, I was a child, but I just adored it. I thought it was funny. I just never seen anything like it. And
Akron, Ohio.
Anyway, we don't have time. We could have, instead of talking about all the like son of a rock star,
that's not
boring
fair,
bullshit.
Though.
We could have been talking about Devo, and we could have been talking about comedy, and we could have been talking about Andy Kaufman or all sorts of interesting shit.
That's not fair because the thing is, you've got to understand the reason I brought it up. I don't care who your dad is, except for that movie is responsible, I think, for me listening to great singer-songwriters is what I'm trying to say.
I got you. I'm just giving you shit.
I know, because listen, man, I toured with Jacob. I know the cardinal rule. Don't bring up the dead. I was there 10 months on the road.
Well, I guess it didn't really rub off on you, though, did it?
Well, no, that's not fair, because you played with your dad. I've seen he's wrote songs with you. That's different.
We've done some work together, yeah.
Yeah, come on, man. That's not fair, right? Don't you think? You're like, oh, this fucking guy's going to bring it up. I didn't bring it up for a reason of like, what's your dad like?
All right,
That's not why I did it. I did it because of the movie. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
Because it's iconic to me, the movie. It's like, wow, I can't believe it. There you go. But we talked about good shit.
Yeah, we talked about tons of stuff.
We did.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
Did you have fun?
Yeah, I did. I just, it's been fun. I've only done, I've hardly ever been on a podcast before, but I like it. I want to start one myself.
Why don't you?
I don't know.
I'll help you.
Easy? You will?
Yeah, it's easy. Yeah, I'll help you.
All right.
What would be your topic?
I got an idea. Do you know? I want to do one with. I proposed it to her. I got a hustler to do it. I wanted to do one with me and Colleen Camp. Do you know Colleen Camp?
Who's that?
She is. She's an actress. She was in like different 70s and 80s stuff. Anyway, you can look her up.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to take you up on that, and then as payment for you fucking bringing up, my dad, I'm going to make you fucking produce my podcast. Dude.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man. I'll help you with it for sure.
All right.
But then each episode we talk about your dad, fucker. This one on the Paul Simon tapes.
Content, man.
I'm the producer of it.
Oh, shit. All right.
No, I'm fucking with you, dude.
All right.
What would you talk about on your podcast, though, in case
you're going to have to tune in to find out.
Okay, you got to name it. Harper Files.
This is new. This is a new thing for me. I got to think it out. But I'm going to keep now that I know you're this like massively popular rock and roll comedy podcast Pussy King.
Oh, shit, Pussy King. That's great, man. I got to get you down to a show. I'm going to get you down to a show.
Yeah. I want to come see it.
Yeah.
I never go see any comedy, really. And
I'll get you come down this week, man. We'll have fun.
All right, cool.
And there he is right there, Harper Simon. Get his records on iTunes, please. They're fantastic. And Twitter, what's your Twitter real quick?
Harper J. Simon. Yeah, follow me on Twitter. It makes me feel better.
It does, man. And you know what?
And no one pays attention to me. Yeah, follow me on Twitter or Instagram.
I'm going to play some of your music on this episode at the front and back so people can hear it. And please get his record. I mean, they're really good, dude. Thank God. You know what I mean? Because I was like, oh, what if they're not good? You know what I mean?
Sure.
That would have been a bummer, right? You come down here and then I'm like, oh, hey, your records. Anyway, what's your dad like? Oh, hey, one last funny story. You played with Sean Lennon, right?
Yeah.
You played with Yoko Ono, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I've done a lot of things with Yoko Ono. I've done a few really weird gigs and cool gigs with Yoko. Yeah, playing in her
she
band
cool?
and stuff. Yeah, of course. She's great.
There's a real, I don't know if you would enjoy it, but there's probably one of the funniest YouTube videos I've ever seen where comedian Bill Burr, who's one of my favorites, describes, somebody made an anime or a video of it. It's so funny where he's ripping on Yoko because she's doing her, why Chuck Berry and Lennon are playing together. So he has a bit on it, and it's hilarious. Some guy grabbed the bit, put it on YouTube with his own fucking
animated it.
Well, he half animated half the real thing. Like he has lasers coming out of Chuck Berry's eyes and shit. If anybody hasn't seen it, put in Bill Burr, Yoko Ono, it'll come up on YouTube. One of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Okay, I'm gonna check that.
But I have a funny Sean Lennon story. We were at Bungalow 8, me and Jacob. It was like 5:30 in the morning. They're closing, so we're leaving. And there's a cab out front. And Sean goes, "Oh, my cab's out here." And we go, "Okay, cool." So we're waiting for a cab. And Sean goes, "Oh, I got to go in and piss." We stole his cab. Oh, he was, man. We're like, the guy, we said, "Nah, he's going to stay. So just go ahead and take us." Oh, we stole his cab. 5:30 in the morning at Bungalow 8. No one around. So that's a great one. Sorry, Sean. There you go. Harper Simon. Thanks for coming by. Love you, buddy.